From the podcaster going on a rant against a flat earther to a heated debate surrounding trans children, here are times Joe Rogan offended his guests. And I've got to start with Eddie Bravo. You all know him for his grappling expertise, but he's been slowly going down a different rabbit hole altogether. I'm talking about his newfound love for conspiracy theories, and one in particular has caught his attention: the flat Earth theory. Now, once Eddie gets into these topics, he doesn't stop. During one episode, Bravo started talking about his newest fascination with the theory, going on and on about why he thought it was true. Rogan tried his hardest to wrap his head around Eddie's rejection of mainstream science before attempting to steer the conversation back to more grounded topics. But Eddie just wouldn't stop talking about it. It got to the point where even Jamie Vernon, the usually quiet producer, got involved. He chimed in towards the end of the podcast, calling out Eddie for spouting pure nonsense. While that was insane, it's even worse when you can't get Joe to shut up. That's what happened with Andrew Hill. This episode was actually going pretty smoothly. Well, at least for the most part. 2.5 hours in, the topic went toward one of Rogan's favorite territories, martial arts. Now Joe, being the straightforward guy he is, didn't hold back. He respected Aikido, the martial art that Hill happened to practice, but he didn't think it was all that effective. That's when things got really heated. Hill countered by saying that the founder of Aikido, this guy named Morihei Ueshiba, was apparently so skilled that he could make people fall over without even touching them. How? By manipulating their balance. To demonstrate his point, Rogan and Hill decided to watch a video together. And what did they see? An Aikido master going up against a highly skilled grappler. And let's just say, it didn't end well for the Aikido guy. He got submitted over and over again. Another episode that went downhill fast was the one with Steven Crowder. Crowder, the conservative political commentator and comedian, had actually been on the Joe Rogan Experience before, way back in 2015. So naturally, people thought they'd have another good chat when Crowder made another appearance. And well, that's how it started. The conversation was going pretty smoothly. Just as expected, they were vibing, exchanging ideas, all that jazz. But then, out of the blue, Rogan asked a seemingly innocent question. He wanted to know Crowder's POV on marijuana legislation, and, well, things took an unexpected turn. Crowder made it crystal clear that he didn't want to discuss marijuana, and that really set off something in Rogan. He probably felt like Crowder was against the whole idea of legislation surrounding it. From there, what started as a discussion slowly spiraled into a heated debate, and before you knew it, it escalated into a full-blown argument. I mean, when it comes to Rogan and his love for weed, you just don't mess with that. Just like you don't mess with a friend who's working with you. Yup, I'm talking about the feud with Brian Redban. In the early years of the podcast, Redban wasn't always there. He had his own gig as a stand-up comedian, and he would use the podcast as a way to share his experiences and progress in the comedy world. But sometimes, Redban's timing wasn't exactly spot on. Like this one time in 2013 during an episode with Justin Foster. He mentioned a positive review he received from a comedy promoter. You'd think that would be a cause for celebration, right? Not exactly. As soon as Redban brought it up, things took a turn for the worse. An argument erupted between him and Rogan, who's been spending a lot of time together making the podcast a regular thing. The tension between these two had been building up for a while, and they finally exploded. It was like watching an old married couple going at it, back and forth with their arguments. Rogan misunderstood Redban's genuine pride in his comedy as him being overly confident, and things just went downhill from there. Although now they've made it up, I don't think anyone's going to forget the chaos that ensued. But hey, this actually isn't the only Brian Joe's fought with on his podcast. You also have Brian Dunning, who wrote an article back in 2008, where he included Rogan in a list called 10 Most Wanted Celebrities Who Promote Harmful Pseudoscience. Yeah, that's bound to create some drama, right? So, as you can imagine, when these two finally sat down for a conversation, things got awkward real quick. One of the most memorable moments of their uncomfortable exchange came when Dunning claimed that you don't need to take supplements because your body produces more nutrients than you actually need, and that's why you pee and poop them out. Not one to shy away from debunking pseudoscience, Rogan was lightning fast in shooting down that objectively unscientific statement. He laid out the facts and made it clear that Dunning's claim didn't hold water. But sometimes Rogan tries to act like the expert in front of the real experts, like he did with Mark Gordon, a medical consultant who focuses on the psychological impact of war and PTSD. During a conversation, he mentioned a supplement called glutathione that supposedly helps people dealing with alcohol and non-alcoholic chronic fatty liver disease. But when Rogan heard about the positive effects of this supplement, he couldn't believe it. He had a lot of doubts and was super skeptical about Mark Gordon's claims. In fact, Your Brain Drives Weight Gain with Stephan Guyene, PhD Diet Doctor podcast. He even said that he wished he had more knowledge on the subject, so he could challenge his guest on his statements. It was like Rogan wanted to call him out, but didn't have the expertise to do so. Now, two people who did were Stephan Guyene and Gary Taubes. Taubes is a controversial figure when it comes to his views on carbohydrates, insulin, and obesity. His book, Good Calories, Bad Calories, has received mixed reviews from mainstream publications, leaving some questioning his credibility in the field of diet research. During their conversation, tensions ran high as Taubes and Guyene clashed over the intricacies of obesity and insulin resistance. It was a heated argument, to say the least. Guyene, known for his expertise in the field and acclaimed book The Hungry Brain, went on a nearly 20-minute tangent, diving deep into the scientific aspects of fat storage. But they never really got on the same page even after all that arguing. The same happened with Milo Yiannopoulos and Rogan. Milo's a political commentator and writer, known for tackling highly charged issues from a far-right perspective. He's got a reputation for ridiculing Islam, feminism, social justice, and just about anything else. So you could already tell that this conversation was going to be intense. The discussion between Milo Yiannopoulos and Rogan quickly escalated when the guest started talking about religion, specifically Christianity, and made the argument that many of the behaviors considered acceptable in today's world have their roots in Christian teachings. But Joe went on a rant, refusing to accept Milo's opinions and challenging him on his perspectives, which is exactly what he did with Jamie Kilstein. During his appearance, he talked about the very sensitive topic of assault victims. This conversation took a pretty heated turn, to say the least. Kilstein, with all his passion, suggested that assault victims are the most disadvantaged in our society. He went on to say that being a victim of assault is worse than dying. And that statement just didn't sit well with Rogan, known for his directness and no-nonsense attitude. The podcast host didn't hold back. He called Kilstein crazy for a comparison like that, saying that he was talking straight-up nonsense. But that doesn't even come close to the nightmare that went down on the Adam Conover episode. Conover is widely recognized for his comedic and educational approach in debunking popular myths and misconceptions. During their time on the show, the topic of trans athletes in professional sports came up, sparking a discussion between Conover and Rogan. The guest argued that transgender individuals typically discover their gender identity at a young age, and said it was important to support and respect their identities. On the other hand, Rogan was concerned about the use of hormones in young children, and was taken aback at the idea of a 7-year-old undergoing gender reassignment surgery. Of course, Conover definitely didn't agree with Rogan's views. The two then got into a very passionate debate surrounding the broader topic of transgender individuals and the ethical considerations involved in transitioning children, where both the men wanted their point to get across. So, there you have it. From a heated debate surrounding trans children to the podcaster going on a rant against a flat earther, These were the times Joe Rogan offended his guests.